In the early months of World War II, the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean became the proving ground for some of the most intense aerial combat in history. Japanese pilots, seasoned by their early successes and confident in the performance of their Mitsubishi A6M0, initially regarded the arrival of the American Grumman F-6F Hellcat with skepticism and a degree of condescension. The Zero, with its exceptional maneuverability, long range, and lightweight design, had established clear air superiority over much of the Pacific. When the Hellcat was first introduced, it was seen by many Japanese aviators as just another American attempt to counter the Zero's dominance, unlikely to offer any revolutionary advantages. This underestimation was rooted deeply in experience and doctrine. The Zero had repeatedly outmatched earlier U.S. Navy fighters like the F-4F Wildcat, and the Hellcat's unfamiliar silhouette and rugged bulk seemed ill-suited for the high-speed, close-quarters dogfighting that characterized Pacific engagements. The context surrounding the Hellcat's entry into service was shaped by the harsh lessons learned during the early Pacific battles. The devastating effectiveness of the Zero had forced American designers and tacticians to reconsider their approach to carrier-based fighters. Japanese pilots had exploited the Zero's agility and climb rate to devastating effect, often engaging in tight-turning dogfights that capitalized on their aircraft's low-wing loading and nimble handling. The initial American response often fell short. The Wildcat's inferior speed and climb performance rendered it vulnerable in direct confrontations. This tactical imbalance contributed to significant losses in the early years of the war, fostering a perception among Japanese airmen that American aviation technology lagged behind their own. However, beneath the surface of Japanese confidence, reports began to surface from frontline pilots and commanders about the Hellcat's surprising resilience and firepower. The Hellcat was introduced not merely as an incremental improvement but as a deliberate countermeasure designed to address the weaknesses previously exploited by the Zero. The initial Japanese dismissals of the Hellcat's capabilities reflected a common wartime phenomenon, the tendency to underestimate a new adversary's technology based on preconceived notions and past experiences. Japanese pilots had faced American fighters before but had never encountered an aircraft engineered specifically to dominate the Zero in every critical performance metric. This strategic miscalculation set the stage for a dramatic shift in Pacific air combat. The early skepticism toward the Hellcat extended beyond the cockpit to the higher echelons of Japanese naval command. Intelligence assessments initially classified the F-6F as a heavily armored but sluggish machine, unlikely to match the Zero's combat finesse. This assessment was colored by the Hellcat's imposing size and weight, which contrasted sharply with the lightweight construction philosophies that had guided Japanese aircraft design. The Japanese belief in the primacy of agility and pilot skill as decisive factors in aerial duels led to a dismissal of the Hellcat's rugged design and emphasis on raw firepower. Consequently, early encounters between Hellcats and Zero pilots were approached with a mixture of curiosity and overconfidence by the Japanese, who expected to repeat their previous successes against American fighters. Yet, the reality of combat engagements soon belied these expectations. Japanese pilots found that the Hellcat's rugged design allowed it to absorb damage that would have crippled or destroyed lighter aircraft. Its powerful Pratt & Whitney R-2800 double Wasp engine provided superior speed and rate of climb, enabling American pilots to dictate the terms of engagement. The Hellcat's heavy armament, 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns, delivered devastating firepower that could quickly neutralize enemy aircraft. These attributes combined to create a carrier-based fighter that was not only survivable but lethal in the hands of well-trained pilots. The initial underestimation by Japanese aviators gave way to a grudging respect as they encountered the Hellcat in increasingly frequent and brutal aerial duels. The turning point in Japanese perceptions can be traced to key battles in 1943 and 1944, where the Hellcat's capabilities were fully realized. During these confrontations, Japanese pilots faced a foe that could outclimb, outdive, and outgun their beloved Zero. The Hellcat's ability to absorb punishment and return safely to its carrier contrasted starkly with the fragility of the Zero, which sacrificed armor and self-sealing fuel tanks for reduced weight. This difference in design philosophy became painfully clear in combat, as Japanese pilots witnessed the survivability of Hellcats after withstanding hits that would have been fatal to their own machines. The Hellcat's rugged design and firepower shattered the myth of Japanese air superiority, forcing a re-evaluation of tactical doctrine. Moreover, the Hellcat's introduction coincided with a broader shift in American naval aviation strategy, emphasizing pilot training, tactical innovation, and technological superiority. Japanese pilots, who had relied heavily on individual skill and close-range dogfighting tactics, struggled to adapt to the new paradigm. The Hellcat's strengths encouraged American pilots to employ boom and zoom tactics, diving attacks from altitude followed by rapid climbs to safety, leveraging the aircraft's speed and structural integrity. These tactics minimized the Hellcat's exposure to the Zero's maneuvering advantage and maximized the impact of its firepower. Japanese aviators found themselves on the defensive, grappling with an aircraft that redefined the parameters of engagement. The psychological impact of confronting the Hellcat was significant. Veteran Japanese pilots, once confident in their dominance, faced a new reality where their tactics were obsolete against an enemy that combined ruggedness with superior firepower. Reports from Japanese squadrons documented growing frustration and bewilderment as they encountered Hellcats that could absorb damage and strike back with deadly accuracy. The Hellcat's presence on the battlefield represented not just a new type of fighter but a fundamental shift in the balance of air power. This shift eroded the aura of invincibility that had surrounded the Zero and emboldened American forces to pursue aggressive air superiority campaigns. Intelligence briefings within the Japanese Navy began to reflect this evolving understanding. While initial reports had downplayed the Hellcat, subsequent analyses acknowledged its formidable capabilities. Japanese tactical manuals were revised to caution pilots about engaging Hellcats in traditional dogfights, advising instead to avoid prolonged engagements with the new American fighter. Despite these adjustments, the ingrained tactical culture and the Hellcat's numerical superiority made it difficult for Japanese aviators to regain the initiative. The initial underestimation of the Hellcat had set in motion a cascade of strategic and tactical disadvantages that would manifest in the decisive aerial battles of the Pacific War. In sum, the early years of World War II in the Pacific were marked by Japanese pilots' initial dismissal of the Hellcat's potential, a dismissal grounded in their experience with the Zero's dominance and a misreading of American technological innovation. The Hellcat emerged not simply as another fighter but as a revolutionary aircraft that addressed the vulnerabilities exploited by Japanese airmen. Its rugged design, powerful engine, and heavy armament challenged long-held beliefs about aerial combat and forced a re-evaluation of tactics and strategy. The skepticism and surprise of Japanese pilots gave way to respect amid brutal aerial duels that would ultimately redefine air superiority in the Pacific theater. The stage was set for the Hellcat to claim its place as one of the most effective carrier-based fighters of the war, altering the course of aerial warfare and signaling a turning point in the struggle for control of the skies. The genesis of the Grumman F-6F Hellcat in 1941 emerged as a direct response to the tactical and technical challenges imposed by the Mitsubishi A6M0. Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corporation, already renowned for crafting robust naval fighters, was tasked with producing a carrier-based fighter that could decisively outperform the Zero in every critical aspect of air combat. The design brief emphasized ruggedness, firepower, and ease of maintenance, qualities deemed essential for sustained operations in the Pacific's harsh environment. The Hellcat was conceived not merely as a replacement but as a transformative platform, engineered to establish unassailable air superiority through a synthesis of power, protection, and pilot-friendly handling. Central to the Hellcat's design was the incorporation of the Pratt & Whitney R2800 double WASP engine, a 2,000 horsepower powerhouse that fundamentally redefined the aircraft's performance envelope. This radial engine delivered unprecedented speed and climb rates for a carrier-based fighter, enabling the Hellcat to reach a top speed exceeding 380 miles per hour and outclimb the nimble Zero. The engine's reliability and robustness contributed significantly to the Hellcat's operational endurance, allowing it to sustain extended sorties without the mechanical vulnerabilities that plagued earlier aircraft. The R2800's power was harnessed through a carefully engineered airframe, designed to balance strength with aerodynamic efficiency, a critical factor for carrier launches and recoveries. The Hellcat's rugged design was further exemplified by its armor plating and self-sealing fuel tanks, innovations that directly addressed the Zero's exploitable weaknesses. Japanese aircraft designers had prioritized weight reduction to maximize agility, leaving their fighters vulnerable to catastrophic damage from relatively minor hits. In stark contrast, the Hellcat's designers accepted a weight penalty in favor of pilot protection and survivability. The armored cockpit shielded pilots from enemy fire, while the self-sealing fuel tanks minimized the risk of fires and explosions, an advancement that dramatically increased the Hellcat's ability to return safely from combat missions even after sustaining significant damage. This emphasis on durability was a strategic choice that reflected a broader shift in American naval aviation philosophy, prioritizing sustainability and pilot survival in protracted engagements. Firepower was another cornerstone of the Hellcat's design, with the aircraft outfitted with 6.50 caliber M2 Browning machine guns distributed across its wings. This armament represented a significant increase over earlier fighters and was capable of delivering a concentrated volume of fire sufficient to shred enemy aircraft at both close and medium ranges. The arrangement of the guns allowed for a balanced recoil and minimized aerodynamic disruption, ensuring that the Hellcat's handling characteristics remained stable during sustained firing. This heavy firepower proved devastating in combat, enabling Hellcat pilots to inflict critical damage quickly, often before the enemy could effectively respond. The Hellcat's weaponry, combined with its rugged airframe, created a fighter that was as lethal as it was survivable. The airframe itself was a product of meticulous engineering, featuring a robust fuselage and a large, high-lift wing designed for carrier operations. The wings incorporated folding mechanisms to conserve space on aircraft carriers, an essential feature given the constrained deck environments. The wing design optimized lift and stability, allowing the Hellcat to operate effectively at a wide range of speeds and altitudes. This versatility was crucial for the varied mission profiles encountered in the Pacific Theater, where dogfighting, ground attack, and fleet defense demanded adaptable performance. The Hellcat's large tail surfaces contributed to its excellent control authority, especially during high-speed dives and abrupt maneuvers, further enhancing its combat effectiveness. An often overlooked aspect of the Hellcat's design was its pilot-centric cockpit layout, which prioritized ergonomics and situational awareness. The cockpit featured improved visibility compared to earlier fighters, with a bubble canopy that afforded pilots a wide field of view. Instrumentation was logically arranged to reduce pilot workload during the intense demands of aerial combat. These design choices reflected an understanding that technological superiority alone was insufficient. The pilot's ability to exploit the aircraft's capabilities was equally critical. The Hellcat's cockpit design facilitated rapid decision-making and precision flying, enabling pilots to execute complex maneuvers and maintain tactical advantage in the dynamic environment of air-to-air combat. The Hellcat's development process itself was notable for its rapid progression and iterative refinement. Grumman engineers leveraged their experience with the earlier F-4F Wildcat, retaining proven structural elements while integrating new technologies and lessons learned from combat. The result was a fighter that could be produced efficiently and in large numbers without sacrificing quality or performance. The Hellcat's production began in earnest in 1942, with Grumman and its subcontractors delivering thousands of aircraft to the U.S. Navy within a remarkably short time frame. This industrial achievement ensured that the Hellcat could be deployed widely, saturating the Pacific skies with a fighter capable of overwhelming the enemy through sheer numbers and superior capability. Comparing the Hellcat's design philosophy to that of the Zero reveals a fundamental divergence in engineering priorities. The Zero's designers had embraced a minimalist approach, emphasizing lightweight and agility at the expense of armor and firepower. This resulted in an aircraft that excelled in maneuverability but was vulnerable to damage and limited in its offensive punch. The Hellcat, conversely, accepted a heavier, more robust airframe to deliver a balance of speed, protection, and firepower. This trade-off proved decisive in combat, as the Hellcat could absorb damage, maintain combat effectiveness, and strike with overwhelming force. The American emphasis on durability and pilot survivability contrasted sharply with the Japanese focus on agility and pilot skill, setting the stage for a shift in tactical dynamics. The Hellcat's technical innovations extended beyond its airframe and armament to include advancements in carrier compatibility. The aircraft was designed to withstand the rigors of catapult launches and arrested landings, which imposed substantial stresses on both the pilot and the airframe. Reinforced landing gear, tailhooks, and structural enhancements ensured that Hellcats could operate consistently from aircraft carriers, maintaining high sortie rates essential for sustained naval campaigns. This operational reliability enhanced the U.S. Navy's ability to project air power across the vast Pacific theater, providing a persistent aerial presence that challenged Japanese dominance. Furthermore, the Hellcat's maintenance requirements were streamlined to facilitate rapid turnaround times between missions. The design allowed ground crews to perform repairs and servicing efficiently, a critical factor in the harsh and often remote conditions of Pacific Island bases and aircraft carriers. This logistical advantage contributed to the Hellcat's sustained combat effectiveness, as aircraft could be quickly returned to flight status despite the demanding operational tempo. The rugged design thus extended beyond combat survivability to encompass holistic support considerations, underscoring the comprehensive nature of the Hellcat's engineering. In summary, the Grumman F-6F Hellcat's design was a masterful integration of power, protection, and firepower, crafted to counter the formidable Mitsubishi Zero and Redefined carrier-based fighter performance. Its powerful Pratt & Whitney R-2800 engine, heavy armor, self-sealing fuel tanks, and 6.50 caliber machine guns combined to create an aircraft that was both tough and lethal. The robust airframe, pilot-centric cockpit, and carrier-optimized features reflected a holistic approach to naval aviation challenges. By embracing durability and offensive capability without sacrificing speed and handling, the Hellcat established itself as a technological and tactical leap forward. These design innovations laid the foundation for the Hellcat's eventual dominance in the Pacific skies, marking a turning point in the evolution of air superiority during World War II. As the Hellcat entered the hands of American naval aviators, its technical superiority demanded a corresponding evolution in pilot training and tactical doctrine to fully exploit its capabilities. The United States Navy recognized that the Hellcat's rugged design, powerful engine, and heavy armament could only translate into battlefield dominance if pilots were trained to leverage these strengths effectively. This realization led to a comprehensive overhaul of training programs and tactical approaches, contrasting sharply with the Japanese reliance on agility and close-range dogfighting, which had characterized aerial combat in the early Pacific War. American pilot training for the Hellcat emphasized discipline, situational awareness, and the integration of emerging doctrines that prioritized energy management and tactical positioning. Unlike the earlier Wildcat pilots, who often engaged in turning battles with the more maneuverable Zero, Hellcat pilots were drilled in boom and zoom tactics, a method that capitalized on the aircraft's superior speed and diving capabilities. This approach involved climbing to higher altitudes, diving swiftly to attack, and then using the Hellcat's power to climb back to safety before the enemy could respond. Such tactics minimized exposure to the Zero's tight turning advantage and leveraged the Hellcat's robust airframe to absorb the stresses of high-speed maneuvers. These training methodologies were reinforced through rigorous simulation and live flight exercises, where instructors emphasized the importance of maintaining altitude advantage and avoiding prolonged dogfights. Pilot testimonials from the period reveal a clear shift in mindset. One Hellcat pilot noted, "We were taught to strike fast and hard, then break away before the enemy could react. It was about controlling the fight, not chasing it." This philosophy marked a departure from the instinctive dogfighting tactics that had dominated earlier engagements and underscored a new understanding of air combat dynamics. The Navy's training programs also incorporated detailed briefings on the strengths and weaknesses of enemy aircraft, particularly the Zero. Pilots were educated on the Zero's vulnerabilities to diving attacks and its lack of armor protection, which allowed Hellcat pilots to adopt aggressive firing strategies without undue fear of immediate retaliation. This intelligence-driven approach enabled American aviators to anticipate enemy maneuvers and to exploit tactical openings with precision. The combination of technical knowledge, tactical innovation, and disciplined execution formed the backbone of the Hellcat's growing combat effectiveness. In juxtaposition, Japanese pilot training remained rooted in a culture that prized individual skill, close-range engagement, and the art of dogfighting. Japanese aviators were trained extensively in maneuvering their aircraft to outturn opponents, relying on the Zero's exceptional agility to gain positional advantage. Their tactical doctrine emphasized tight formations and coordinated attacks, with an expectation that superior piloting would overcome technological disparities. While effective in the early stages of the war, this approach increasingly proved inadequate against the Hellcat's different combat paradigm. Japanese pilots initially regarded the Hellcat's heavier weight and less agile profile as weaknesses to be exploited. However, as American pilots refined their boom and zoom tactics and leveraged the Hellcat's firepower and durability, Japanese aviators found their traditional dogfighting techniques less effective. The inability to engage Hellcats in sustained turning battles forced them to reconsider their approach, but ingrained training and tactical doctrine limited rapid adaptation. This divergence in tactical evolution contributed significantly to the changing balance of power in the air. The tactical shift was not merely theoretical, it manifested in the brutal aerial duels over the Pacific. In training debriefs and combat reports, Hellcat pilots recounted how their aircraft's speed and diving capability allowed them to initiate attacks from advantageous positions and disengage before enemy fighters could respond. This hit-and-run methodology reduced pilot casualties and increased kill ratios. One pilot recalled an engagement where a coordinated dive from altitude enabled a flight of Hellcats to decimate a formation of Zeros before the Japanese could effectively counterattack. Such encounters highlighted the practical application of the new tactical doctrine and the Hellcat's suitability for it. Moreover, the Hellcat's forgiving flight characteristics made it an ideal platform for training new pilots. Its stability and control responsiveness allowed less experienced aviators to build confidence and competence quickly. This contrasted with the Zero, which demanded exceptional skill to manage its light controls and high maneuverability. The Hellcat's pilot-friendly cockpit layout and robust design reduced the attrition rate during training and combat, ensuring a steady flow of capable aviators to frontline units. This training efficiency was a critical factor in sustaining American air operations across dispersed Pacific bases. The U.S. Navy also integrated tactical communications and team coordination into Hellcat pilot training. Squadrons practiced formation flying, mutual support, and coordinated attack plans that maximized their collective firepower and defensive capabilities. This contrasted with the more individualistic tendencies of Japanese pilots, who often relied on personal initiative and less formalized group tactics. The American emphasis on teamwork and communication allowed Hellcat formations to operate with greater cohesion and effectiveness, amplifying their impact in large-scale engagements. Importantly, the training programs adapted continuously based on combat experience. Feedback from pilots returning from missions informed refinements in tactics and instructional content. The Navy's analytical approach to aerial combat fostered an environment where lessons learned were rapidly disseminated and incorporated into training syllabi. This dynamic process ensured that Hellcat pilots remained tactically agile and prepared to counter evolving Japanese strategies. It also underscored a broader institutional commitment to leveraging technology and training synergistically. Japanese pilots, confronted with the Hellcat's advantages, attempted to modify their tactics, but these efforts met with limited success. The ingrained emphasis on dogfighting and the Zero's design constraints limited their ability to adopt boom and zoom or energy-based tactics effectively. As the Hellcat's numbers and pilot proficiency increased, Japanese aviators found themselves increasingly outmatched in engagements where the American fighter dictated the tempo and terms of battle. The tactical evolution surrounding the Hellcat thus played a pivotal role in shifting the momentum of air warfare in the Pacific. In sum, the introduction of the Hellcat catalyzed a transformation in American pilot training and tactical doctrine. By emphasizing boom and zoom tactics, energy management, formation coordination, and pilot survivability, the U.S. Navy maximized the Hellcat's technological advantages. This evolution contrasted markedly with Japanese reliance on agility and close-range dogfighting, highlighting a fundamental shift in aerial combat philosophy. The Hellcat's pilot-friendly design and the Navy's rigorous training programs produced aviators capable of exploiting the aircraft's strengths fully, setting the stage for decisive victories in the Pacific theater and reshaping the nature of carrier-based aerial warfare. The Hellcat's combat debut and subsequent operational record in the Pacific theater stand as a testament to the aircraft's transformative impact on naval air warfare. Its performance in key battles, notably the Battle of the Philippine Sea and the Marianas Turkey Shoot, underscored the tangible shift in air superiority from Japanese to American forces. These engagements revealed not only the Hellcat's superior firepower and rugged design but also the effectiveness of the tactical doctrines that had evolved around it. The Hellcat's combat effectiveness was not theoretical, it was proven decisively in the skies over the Pacific, where aerial duels became a crucible for demonstrating its capabilities. The Battle of the Philippine Sea, fought in June 1944, epitomized the Hellcat's role as a carrier-based fighter capable of overwhelming Japanese air power. During this massive fleet engagement, Hellcats faced off against waves of Japanese aircraft intent on disrupting American amphibious landings. Japanese pilots, still grappling with the Hellcat's unexpected performance, found themselves outmatched by an enemy that combined superior speed, firepower, and pilot training. The engagement became known as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, due to the staggering number of Japanese aircraft shot down with comparatively minimal American losses. Hellcat pilots exploited their aircraft's boom and zoom tactics, diving from altitude to deliver concentrated bursts of fire before climbing away unscathed. The rugged design of the Hellcat allowed many pilots to survive damage that would have grounded or destroyed lesser aircraft, maintaining relentless pressure on Japanese formations. This battle dramatically altered the kill ratios in favor of the Hellcat and the U.S. Navy, with American forces claiming over 300 enemy aircraft destroyed in a single day. The Hellcat's heavy armament proved decisive. Its 6.50 caliber machine guns could quickly disable or destroy lightly armored Japanese fighters. The aircraft's performance in this engagement shattered lingering Japanese assumptions about American air capability and demonstrated the Hellcat's capacity to dominate the aerial battlefield. The battle also highlighted the importance of pilot training and tactical innovation, as Hellcat squadrons operated with coordinated precision and mutual support, overwhelming their adversaries. Subsequent operations in the Marianas Campaign reinforced the Hellcat's strategic value. As American forces sought to secure island bases for future offensives, the Hellcat provided critical air cover and offensive capability. Its ability to escort bombers, engage enemy fighters, and perform ground attack missions showcased its versatility. Japanese air forces, already diminished by losses at the Philippine Sea, struggled to mount effective resistance against the growing numbers of Hellcats. Aerial engagements during this period consistently favored the Hellcat, with kill ratios sometimes reaching as high as 14-1. Such statistics underscored the aircraft's role in establishing and maintaining air superiority, a prerequisite for the success of island-hopping campaigns. The Hellcat's durability was a key factor in its combat success. Pilots frequently reported returning with damage from enemy fire that would have downed less robust fighters. Stories circulated of Hellcats sustaining hits to wings, engines, and fuselage yet managing safe landings on carriers or airfields. This ruggedness not only preserved valuable pilot lives but also maintained squadron strength in sustained operations. The aircraft's ability to absorb punishment and remain operational under fire represented a significant tactical advantage, eroding Japanese morale and complicating their tactical planning. In addition to its combat record, the Hellcat's handling characteristics contributed to its effectiveness in battle. Pilots praised its stability and responsiveness, which allowed for precise control during high-speed maneuvers and firing runs. Unlike the fragile and lightweight Zero, the Hellcat could execute aggressive dives and rapid climbs without compromising structural integrity. This capability complemented the boom and zoom tactics, enabling pilots to strike swiftly and retreat before the enemy could mount a counterattack. The pilot-friendly design also reduced fatigue during prolonged missions, enhancing overall combat performance. The Hellcat's success was not limited to air-to-air combat. Its robust design and payload capacity allowed it to perform ground attack and close air support missions effectively. Equipped with bombs and rockets, the Hellcat could engage enemy installations, ships, and ground forces, adding a multi-dimensional threat to Japanese operations. This versatility further amplified its strategic value, as it supported the broader objectives of the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps in securing territorial gains across the Pacific. Japanese naval aviators, confronted by the Hellcat's overwhelming presence, found their once dominant air tactics increasingly ineffective. The aircraft's combination of firepower, speed, and resilience forced Japanese pilots into defensive postures, often resulting in heavy losses. The psychological impact of encountering the Hellcat, with its reputation for survivability and lethality, contributed to a decline in Japanese pilot morale and combat effectiveness. The Hellcat thus not only shifted the material balance of power but also eroded the intangible factors that underpin sustained military success. Statistical analyses from the period confirm the Hellcat's superiority. The aircraft accounted for over 5,000 aerial victories during the war, more than any other Allied naval fighter. Its kill-to-loss ratio was approximately 19-1, an extraordinary figure reflecting both the aircraft's capabilities and the effectiveness of American training and tactics. These numbers stand in stark contrast to the Japanese experience, where pilot attrition and aircraft losses mounted unsustainably. The Hellcat's dominance was a critical factor in securing air superiority for the Allies, enabling uninterrupted offensive operations and protecting vital naval and amphibious forces. The operational success of the Hellcat also influenced broader strategic considerations in the Pacific. Control of the air allowed the U.S. Navy to conduct carrier strikes, support amphibious landings, and interdict Japanese supply lines with greater freedom and effectiveness. The Hellcat's role in this process cannot be overstated. Its presence on the decks of American carriers ensured that naval task forces could project power deep into enemy-held territories with reduced risk from enemy air attack. This strategic advantage accelerated the pace of American advances and contributed materially to the eventual defeat of Japanese forces. In sum, the Hellcat's combat record during pivotal battles such as the Philippine Sea and the Marianas Campaign exemplified its decisive contribution to Allied air superiority. Its superior firepower, rugged design, and pilot-centric handling combined with effective American tactics to overwhelm Japanese air forces. The aircraft's versatility in both air-to-air and ground attack roles further enhanced its strategic value. Japanese pilots, once confident in their dominance, faced a relentless adversary that redefined aerial combat in the Pacific theater. The Hellcat's performance in these engagements solidified its reputation as a game-changing fighter, setting the stage for the final phases of the war and the enduring legacy of American naval aviation. In the aftermath of World War II, the Grumman F-6F Hellcat's impact on military aviation was subjected to rigorous analysis and reflection by both American and Japanese experts. The consensus recognized the Hellcat as a transformative fighter that successfully combined ruggedness, firepower, and pilot-friendly design to decisively alter the balance of air superiority in the Pacific theater. Post-war evaluations underscored the multifaceted nature of the Hellcat's legacy, highlighting not only its technical innovations but also the strategic and tactical shifts it precipitated in aerial warfare. American post-war assessments praised the Hellcat's role as the backbone of U.S. naval air power, emphasizing its effectiveness in large-scale carrier operations and sustained combat. The aircraft's robust construction and self-sealing fuel tanks were noted as critical factors in reducing pilot casualties and maintaining squadron strength during protracted campaigns. Analysts highlighted the Hellcat's ability to endure damage and return safely to carriers as a significant advancement over earlier fighters, which often prioritized speed and agility at the cost of survivability. This durability, combined with the powerful Pratt & Whitney R-2800 engine and heavy armament, represented a holistic design philosophy that balanced offense, defense, and operational practicality. The Hellcat's kill-to-loss ratio remained a focal point of admiration. Over 5,000 confirmed aerial victories with a kill ratio approximating 19-to-1 spoke to the aircraft's superiority and the effectiveness of American pilot training and tactics. Military historians credited the Hellcat with decisively tipping the scales of air combat in the Pacific, enabling the U.S. Navy to achieve and sustain air dominance essential for successful amphibious operations and naval engagements. The aircraft's overwhelming combat record stood as a testament to the synergy between engineering excellence and tactical innovation. Japanese post-war analyses offered a complementary perspective, acknowledging the Hellcat's formidable attributes that had challenged their air forces. Japanese experts recognized that the Hellcat's rugged design and firepower directly countered the Zero's earlier advantages in maneuverability and range. The Zero's vulnerabilities to diving attacks and its lack of armor protection, which had been exploited by Hellcat pilots employing boom and zoom tactics, were highlighted as key factors in the shifting dynamics of the air war. Japanese assessments also noted that the Hellcat's rapid production and deployment overwhelmed their ability to maintain pilot quality and aircraft numbers, compounding the strategic difficulties faced by the Imperial Navy Air Service. These post-war reflections underscored the importance of technological innovation not in isolation but as part of an integrated system comprising aircraft design, pilot training, tactical doctrine, and industrial capacity. The Hellcat exemplified this integration, demonstrating how advances in engine technology, armament, and structural design could be amplified by rigorous training and adaptive tactics. Its success challenged prevailing notions that agility and pilot skill alone could guarantee air superiority, introducing a more nuanced understanding of the interplay between machine and pilot. Furthermore, the Hellcat's legacy extended beyond its wartime service. The design principles it embodied influenced subsequent generations of carrier-based fighters, shaping the evolution of naval aviation into the jet age. Its emphasis on ruggedness, pilot protection, and balanced performance informed the development of aircraft capable of operating in increasingly complex and hostile environments. The Hellcat thus represents a pivotal link in the continuum of military aviation technology, bridging the gap between early propeller-driven fighters and the sophisticated jet aircraft that followed. The strategic impact of the Hellcat also resonated within broader military doctrine. Its success validated the prioritization of air superiority as a prerequisite for successful naval and amphibious operations. The aircraft's ability to provide effective fleet defense, offensive strike capability, and ground support demonstrated the multifaceted role carrier-based fighters would play in modern warfare. This understanding influenced post-war naval planning and the allocation of resources toward developing and maintaining air dominance capabilities. In addition to its technical and strategic contributions, the Hellcat's legacy is preserved through the stories of the pilots who flew it. Their experiences reflect the aircraft's pilot-friendly design and combat effectiveness. Many accounts emphasize the confidence the Hellcat instilled, allowing aviators to execute aggressive tactics with a measure of security afforded by the aircraft's durability. This psychological advantage, though intangible, proved crucial in sustaining morale and combat performance during the relentless air campaigns of the Pacific War. The Hellcat's enduring reputation also owes much to its role in redefining the principles of air combat. Its operational history challenged the pre-war orthodoxy that had elevated maneuverability as the supreme attribute of a fighter. Instead, the Hellcat demonstrated that a well-rounded fighter, combining speed, firepower, protection, and pilot ergonomics, could dominate through tactical flexibility and sustained combat presence. This paradigm shift influenced air combat theory and practice well into the post-war era. Reflecting on the Hellcat's impact, military historians regard it as more than a mere aircraft. it was a catalyst for change in aerial warfare. It exemplified how innovation, when coupled with effective training and adaptive tactics, could overcome initial disadvantages and decisively alter the trajectory of a conflict. The Hellcat story illustrates the dynamic nature of technological competition in war and the necessity of integrating multiple facets of military capability to achieve air superiority. In conclusion, the post-war evaluation of the Grumman F-6F Hellcat affirms its status as a game-changing fighter that reshaped naval aviation and the broader principles of air superiority. Its rugged design, formidable firepower, and compatibility with evolving tactical doctrines allowed it to dominate the skies of the Pacific theater. The aircraft's legacy extends beyond its wartime achievements, influencing future fighter design and military strategy. The Hellcat stands as a symbol of American ingenuity and adaptability, a decisive factor in the Allied victory, and an enduring exemplar of the complex interplay between technology, training, and tactics in modern aerial warfare.